Good afternoon. My name is Carol Chi. I am the president of the Asian Student Union, and it is my pleasure to be here today with all of you at the Asian Heritage Lecture. Before I start, I'd like to let you know that our hearing loop system is down, so if you're in need of auditory assistance, you can move a little closer to the front. We have plenty of seats. But I'm very excited to announce that as we enter into Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which we as ASU celebrate 1 month early in order to be on campus with all of you. This event is meant to be a continued conversation at Hope College and to bring awareness to the AANHPI community. This afternoon, we will hear a discussion from David Lee, who we're very blessed to have speaking to us today. Immediately after the lecture, we will have a Q&A discussion where you'll be able to ask questions via a Google form. To submit any questions, please scan the QR code on the screen, or we have note cards for you to write your questions and we will submit them online for you. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the land that we stand on. Together, we acknowledge that we gather as Hope College on the traditional land of the Peoria, Potawatomi, Odawa, and Ojibwa peoples, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. As a community, we recognize the ever-present systemic inequities that stem directly from past wrongdoings. We acknowledge this long history of injustice and commit to educating ourselves and our community as we seek to honor the legacy and culture of the Indigenous peoples. We are grateful to the Asian Student Union, the GROW Advocacy Council, and the Center for Diversity and Inclusion for their support in sponsoring this program. Once again, thank you so much for coming to this lecture. I hope you enjoy what you hear today, but most importantly, I hope you learn something new that will inspire you. Next, we will hear from one of ASU's phenomenal general members, Ann Ha, who will be sharing some wonderful poetry.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you and or meet you. My name is Ann Ha. I'm a senior studying psychology, and I am also a local poet. So we are going to be engaging in some poetry today. 2 of these pieces are written by myself, that of which I will read first, followed by a poem by a Vietnamese American artist, as that is my ancestry. For our first piece, it's a shorter one titled Elder Trees. The elder trees watch over me, awash in reds and greens, my gentle sway in winter winds, and yet I hold my peace. My Buddha's ear held to the ground, I feel the still earth's hum. My hands caress the moss abyss, and my winged feet ache to run. I long for the earth to invite me home, to give me true love's kiss. I miss the days of picking grass. Winter, what a time to reminisce. Thank you. This next piece is titled Ancestors. I will give a trigger warning that this contains themes of violence, gun-related, and also war. My ancestors must worry for me, my body frail and my mind unsound. I fall in shoes bedazzled and high, and these hands can't work the ground. I suffer in a pink plush bed. I eat like kings and queens. A luxury, a gilded cage, a life beyond my means. I never asked for the water I sip, can't waste a drip lest I forget. The war, the man, the guns that killed my people's still parched lips. The perpetrators are my neighbors, Vietnam vet hats worn with pride. I've shaken the hands that have pulled the trigger, hands that ceased a living mind. Thank you. This third piece is by the aforementioned poet that shares my Vietnamese American ancestry. His name is Ocean Vuong. We also share other identities, and so I felt like this was a really beautiful piece to bring in today. This is called Kissing in Vietnamese. My grandmother kisses, as if bombs are bursting in the backyard, where mint and jasmine lace their perfumes through the kitchen window, as if somewhere a body is falling apart. Flames making their way back through the intricacies of a young boy's thigh. As if to walk out the door, your torso would dance from exit wounds. When my grandmother kisses, there would be no flashy smooching, no Western music of pursed lips. No, she kisses as if to breathe. She kisses as if to breathe you inside her, nose pressed to cheek so that your scent is relearned, and your sweat pearls into drops of gold inside her lungs, as if while she holds you, death also is clutching your wrist. My grandmother kisses, as if history never ended, and as if, somewhere, a body is still falling apart. Thank you. Next we have Miss Irene.
Thank you for the beautiful poetry, Anne. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Irene So, and I serve as a treasurer for the Asian Student Union. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker today for the Asian Heritage Lecture, David Lee. David is driven to build a community that grows more just, equitable, and open to opportunity, which can best foster others who are living within the uniquely multicultural experiment that is the United States. He currently serves as co-director and advancement director at Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates, a nonprofit immigration law office and advocacy center in Holland, Michigan. Born in South Korea, David immigrated with his family to New Jersey in 1992, while his father earned an MDiv at New Brunswick Theological Seminary. Growing up in New Jersey, his home was located between an RCA church and the city's largest Jewish temple. After graduating from Hope College in 2008, David went on to earn a Master's of Music from Northern Illinois University, before returning to live and work in Holland at Community Action House for nearly 7 years. David joined the LIA family in the summer of 2021. He is excited to bring experiences in volunteer management, fundraising, marketing, project management, data analysis, and a lifelong learner's curiosity to LIA. In his previous lives, he has served as a youth orchestra conductor, classical violinist, and chamber musician. Outside of LIA, David serves as a board member with Lakeshore Nonprofit Alliance and has served on the board of Holland Zealand Young Professionals, the Holland Museum's DEI Committee, and most recently was elected president of the Lakeshore United Rotaract Club. And now, please give a warm welcome to David Lee.
I am so honored to be living what I consider, and I think most other people will consider, a life of leadership and service in a global society today. That's part of the mission of Hope College, and 20 years after I started and set my foot first here on campus, I can say, good job, Hope College, you have accomplished your mission at least once with me. Probably more than that as well, but I'm definitely one piece of good evidence. Part of my life in doing that service is with Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates. I am glad to see some folks both that have worked and also are supporting that organization here. Thank you all for being here. I want to take a moment and also thank the members of the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, the staff. I see Polly, who has been my handler, I would say. She's been great. It's not an easy job to kind of wrangle all these different folks. The lineup of speakers you've had for this has been amazing. Polly, you are so wonderful. Thank you so much. Nicole, if you're in the room still, thank you so much. You are just keeping things together, right? So Margot is also here, and she's, I think, the mom of the group. I hate to say that way. I'm sorry, you have been. Javon, you are also here right now as the fearless leader and director, so hey. Thank you for making space for this. This is really important. I'm gonna move this chair. I do tend to move around a bit when I'm speaking, so please bear with me. And then I have this, these are my notes. I may or may not go with them. We'll find out. At Lighthouse, I am the advancement director, marketing, fundraising. I do a lot of finance. I'm still kind of learning every day what I'm doing, which is kind of exciting. When I get to work tomorrow, tomorrow's Wednesday? There's I don't know. It's gonna be wild. We're gonna have emails from probably 6 different organizations and 3 groups that wanna talk to us, and somehow we're going to also fit in a way to improve how we're providing those legal services to immigrants in our community. I want to start this lecture, right, I took some pictures. I said that it's from my eyes as an alumnus. This is a picture of the Pine Grove in 2008. It was one of the, it looks really good. It doesn't look like that anymore because the building in the back is Nightcirk Music Building. It's gone now. I'm still sad. I was a music student, so I spent like hours and hours practicing, and it's gone. But Hope's campus is beautiful. I wanted to start by asking and answering a question that I have grown familiar with. This was a question that I used to find really impossible to answer, especially here in West Michigan. I've grown since then to really love this question because it opens up so many doors. So where are you from? Simple question. I think there is an easy answer, a difficult answer, and then something in between. Logically, in 2004, when I first came to campus and someone asked me this question, I would say, well, where was I before I came to Holland, Michigan? I was in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. That's where I grew up for about 10 years. No one knows where Fair Lawn is, except for like randomly I would meet someone much older than me who actually knew where Fair Lawn was because they were kind of like in with the Reformed Church in America, so they were aware of that history, but most of my students didn't understand. So I would tell them, well, it's right next to Patterson, New Jersey, which would maybe get some nods. Cummings? No? Okay. Then I would actually say, oh, it's like an hour from New York City. Okay, so you're from that area. So most of the time, this is a good question to get to know people. Sometimes, though, a follow-up question is almost immediately asked. I was like, where are your parents from? They're from New Jersey. They're from New Brunswick Theological Seminary. That's where they both went to college. Sure. Being on campus as a Korean American student was weird. The more that I would meet more people, I think a lot of times it was very much in good faith. People would ask questions. Where I was from was like the first thing that they wanted to know, not what I was studying, well, a lot of times it was, why are you here? Where are you from? They want to know where I'm from, and I didn't really want to say I'm from Korea because I really felt like I was from New Jersey. That was my core identity. And then occasionally people would get to this level of question, and that's when I knew, like, okay, I gotta step back and think about what kind of interaction I'm having with this student that I met from, they've lived in Holland all their life, and they want to know, like, they're not really aware of what they're exactly asking, and then I would have to translate for them before I could answer the question for them, that they were really asking, like, you don't really look like you're from here, and like, okay, so maybe you are American, or maybe you were even born here, but you don't look that way to me. And then I would kind of get a condescending feeling from certain students because I stuck out. And I think even when you walk around campus in Holland now, you know when you stick out. Just like if you are from Holland originally, which probably means that you might have a Dutch heritage and you are Caucasian, and you go to a country where there are very few people like that, you will stick out, right? So, all in all, I think that this question helped me understand that I was in a foreign land from New Jersey. Part of New Jersey I was from, very diverse. In my bio, I shared that I lived between the church and the town's biggest Jewish temple, Temple Beth Shalom. Every single time there was a high holiday in the Jewish faith, I'd see all my classmates having to walk past my house to go to temple, where they would have to do a lot of prayers and just like hours of things, and they'd have to walk back, and I'd just be like, hi, I'm not walking, I'm not Jewish, but I'm glad you are, and you're passing by my house every day. So this question is difficult for me, and I'm not saying you shouldn't ask this question, because I think it's a great question to ask. In fact, I find myself asking this question of almost everyone that I meet all the time. Part of it is I just want to be on a level playing ground. If someone wants to know where I'm from, I also want to know where they're from. And I think I'm genuinely curious. It is cool where people find their own backgrounds from, and I try really hard to remember. Javon, I asked you this question the first time I met you. in the parking lot after like the Ottawa County DEI conference, the last time that happened, and you told me Grand Rapids, and I asked you, what really is, like, which part of Grand Rapids, because it's a big county, and you told me where you were from, and I don't remember. Because my memory is terrible nowadays, but you were so kind and you shared that with me, and I think it matters where you come from. I think it really does. And it matters if you're from Holland or Zealand, it matters so much because it's part of your identity. I think Hope College does a great job of creating a sense of wanting to explore that identity with students. I think it does okay with faculty. I think there's kind of more requirements. To me, it's always been really fascinating what people just tell you in person if you ask them. People are just open. And that's not just here, that's all over the place. Like if you're in a conversation, you're in good faith with somebody, they will just tell you whatever you ask them. I'm not gonna ask you any questions right now, just relax. But communications happen regardless of whether you want it tonight. And the kind of questions you're asking and your posture and your attitude and who you're asking those questions to. And I used to be a lot more observant and a lot more kind of heightened awareness about power dynamics and racial relations, especially when I was first a student. And so I would notice that I would get this question of where are you from asked a whole lot more than my non-Asian Caucasian students. When I'm seeing them interact with each other, I spent a lot of time at the Klutz, people watching. Klutz used to be like the student center. And you can tell when people are like, oh, we have to work on this project together, and they're kind of starting to have some interactions, and you realize they don't really ask where each other are from as much. It's kind of assumed. So I want to answer this question, where am I from? Because I am partly very proud of where I'm from, but I also have really never had a conversation where I have to fully explain and answer that question. I'm from South Korea, where I was born. I am also from New Brunswick Theological Seminary, the campus before it was torn down and rebuilt and is kind of really modern now, but it was really cool back then too in the 90s. I'm from Fair Lawn, New Jersey, which is an awesome town. It was featured on Kitchen Nightmares. There was a restaurant, La Campagna, which has since closed. It was really good though, I got to go eat there once. I'm also from Lubbers on campus and the English department. That was like my first people that I found. I'm also from Nykirk, and the music department before it was torn down. It was turned into something better, okay? Yes, I'm still a little sad that my building is gone. I am from Holland. I am from West Michigan, because I've been here for so long, I really feel like I'm more from here than anywhere else at this point in my life. I am from a Korean Reformed church, and I'm also from the classical music world. I am from all of these places and origins. I'm also the son of a pastor. I'm an immigrant. I am from the pre-9/11 world. I'm also from the pre-global financial crisis world. I'm also from the pre-pandemic world. Most of us are, I think. Yeah, it's weird. So my ancestors, like Korean ancestors, I come from a pretty interesting family in the history of Korea. So if you go back like 44 generations in my family, you get to the Emperor of Korea. And if you go down a few more generations after that, you get to Sejong the Great, who was the person who invented the Korean language. And it's that same family that ruled Korea until about 1910, when Japan kind of annexed Korea in a very sideways, kind of casual way. It was very bad. But so like, if I think about my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and many generations before them, my people are indigenous to South Korea, or Korea as a whole. Like, the land was never really stolen, or the time that Japan tried to, we eventually got it back. So, yeah, it's hard to like, I'm getting angry now as I think about it. Like, someone who's asking me like, oh, like my parents came over on the Mayflower. I'm like, great. My ancestors were the kings and queens of Korea 100 years before that. But I'm glad the Mayflower is important. I mean, I realize I'm in America, right? but So it's a mixture of like kindness and anger that has been tempered as I've gotten older, right? And it's good, it's good. All right, I literally wrote the words "end rant" here in my script. Okay. So, knowing that you're different, that other people know that you're different, that they're thinking, what's different about this person, that does stuff that's weird to you. It does not make you healthy. It makes you question and ask questions that I think are important for anyone to do and ask, but it also carries this like really healthy level of absurdity, because I'm not going to go around telling people that I'm, the 44th generation of the Lee clan that was of this dynasty, because that you sound like a crazy person, right? Even though it's true, because it's absurd. If you go back too far in your background, you become like talk about Genghis Khan and like what's his name, King Philip. I don't know. Everyone in Europe is like related to like a single king or something, right? There's all these things that don't quite make sense, and it gets so removed. But I found myself as I was taking classes at Hope digging more and more into this, because I felt like I needed academic ammunition to be able to counter what people were thinking about what I was saying and who I was as a person. It didn't work, because again, people are just people. They don't want to have a full academic discussion about who you are as a person. They want to know where you're from. So eventually I ended up starting to tell them, I'm from New Jersey. My parents are from South Korea. I'm a card-carrying member of the Reformed Church in America. And actually, RCA membership among students was higher in the 2004, and it's gone down since then. I've recently learned. I had no idea, but it's there. Through all my time at Hope College, I think that even though there have been mistakes made, I think there have been choices made at different points, there have also been really good things that have happened. When you try for diversity, you're also toying with exclusion. You're going to leave some people behind sometimes. You're going to take some people the wrong way. Whether it's intentional or not, I think it's important to acknowledge the things that have happened in the past, and also to acknowledge that they're probably still happening. Actually, not probably. They are definitely still happening. So what do you do with that? Not here to point fingers or point blame at anyone or anything. I'm just here to say, let's work on it together. This is me. My friends, I have some friends here. Thank you for coming. You have to listen to me talk for a long time. I have always been tired. This is me at 6 years old, okay? I have always been tired, and this is proof that I was always tired, okay? This is the day that I became an immigrant. This is from a bus station in Seoul before we got onto the bus and went to the airport, on the airport, to Newark, New Jersey, where we landed. So like until this day, March 23rd, 1992, I believe, 22nd, international date line, I don't know when we crossed it exactly. That was the day I went from being Korean to being a Korean immigrant. It's a really cool kind of border, because once you cross it, you can never go back. You never stop. Even if you move away, if you move back to Korea, you were still an immigrant. It's part of your identity. It's really wild. Just gives me the chills. I'm going to leave this picture up because I'm still sleepy. That's true. So once upon a time, a man named Horace immigrated in the mid to late 18th century. Horace immigrated from London to New Jersey. He attended New Brunswick Theological Seminary, which is one of the 2 seminaries that the Reformed Church of America runs. He graduated, got a master's in divinity, and then he went and became a missionary in South Korea. He lived there for much of his life. He was a missionary, but he also started a school called Yonsei University. There was 2 schools. There was Severance, which was a hospital, also started by a different missionary, and then there was this school, which eventually they merged. This was the school that my parents went to when they were in college in the 60s and 70s. That's where they met, got married, had me. A few years after that, my family moved to the United States, and my dad attended New Brunswick Theological Seminary. So that's a really big 150-year circle where immigrant from London comes to New Brunswick, goes to Korea, and then 100 years later, Koreans go from that same school back to New Brunswick so they can this man Horace is the whole reason I'm here today. I had to trace it back and remember, like, oh my gosh. I didn't know this when I was a Hope student, by the way. I just figured this out in the last couple weeks. I was like, this guy has had an undue influence on my life, and I never knew who he was. Horace Underwood was his name. In Korea, he is highly regarded as being a bedrock of education, Christian education included, but also just being someone that's very important to so many people. He's not well known, I think, among most circles here in the US, but yeah, he's a big deal. So we came to New Jersey, 6 years old. I remember getting on that flight, big old airport. I cut my mom out of this picture, partly because I know she's gonna watch this on YouTube later, and she would never forgive me if I showed a picture of her in this picture in public. But just know that it was my mom, my brother, and me. That flight was rough. Pretty sure we stopped in Anchorage, because at the time flights didn't go direct from Seoul to New York. They had to stop in Anchorage because of the fuel, they had to refuel. They had the best udon noodles in Anchorage. And because there were so many Asian immigrants, like there was just a market for it. And so like a big giant hot bowl of noodles, it was really good. I'm food centered as a person. So I remember the noodles, even at 6 years old. It was a rough flight. We landed in New Jersey. A friend of my dad's, best friend, picked us up because he was already at the seminary studying. We moved into the red brick apartments, and that's where we lived for like 5 or 6 years. It was great. My dad was pursuing an MDiv, that's Masters of Divinity. That's generally one of the ways that you can become an ordained pastor or person of like a faith leadership position in the United States. New Brunswick Public Schools, going from kindergarten all the way through about midway through 4th grade, it was pretty rough, I gotta be honest. I think about education having many different sides, right? Especially like there's public, there's private, and then there are some really well-resourced schools and there's some deeply unresourced schools. They had free and reduced lunch. Oftentimes it was literally just a bagel and no cream cheese or butter. That's just what they had. It was not a very resourced school. Most of my classmates were people of color. I think I was far from the only Asian, but there was probably only one Caucasian student, and the rest were Hispanic and Black. I mean, it was an amazing place, but also pretty rough. They have since converted all their parking lots into like those mobile units where they can have additional classrooms because they just ran out of space. There's still a lot of students. There's no playground and nowhere for kids to play, even if they're in the 1st or 2nd grade. And it's still the case there, all these schools. I struggled to learn English. That was one of the most difficult things I have ever done in my life, like harder than anything. Polly's coming over here telling me I have like 5 minutes left. Do I? Okay, I'll keep talking. Okay. At the end of the day, growing up was rough, memorable, but also it was okay. I mean, I have a lot of mixed memories from this time. I was very shy and introverted, didn't make a lot of friends, but I also really enjoyed treating all of Rutgers University campus, which is right next to New Brunswick, as my own personal playground. Amazing. And I felt never any danger, right? I think nowadays you think about sending your 6-year-old out to like, go play in a big urban city. Wouldn't do it, but my parents were like, that's fine. It helped that there was a group of us. So I think there was like probably a dozen different kids around my age that were at New Brunswick Seminary at the time, all from Korea. So we just like would go in packs to different places. We would get ice cream. We would go climb the big hill right next to the seminary. We would play hide and seek in the library that the seminary had, which is kind of odd that I got away with that. But it was a really cool way to experience a life both that is as an immigrant, but also of faith, because it was a seminary campus. We knew who the professors were, we knew who the president was, we knew who everyone was, and they knew who we were because we were unavoidable, we were everywhere. My dad eventually graduated. Oh, I gotta show you this picture. Yeah, it's so dark, that's me. at like 6.5 years old. I had never seen this much snow in my life. New Jersey East Coast got hit with a big blizzard. The building I could do this now. This building, this is the seminary. Thank you. And this is the library, Gardner A. Sage Library. My mom worked there. Huge snowstorm to the point where and this wasn't because of the snow plows. This was just the snow. So we were digging tunnels, we were having a great time. I live in Michigan now, so in literary circles, you would call this foreshadowing. This was my family a few weeks after we landed. My mom, my dad, me and my brother. Kind of what you would call like a typical Asian-looking immigrant family, right? It was the 90s, early 90s. This building is the apartments that we lived in. Those are gone, they've been demolished, and I think there's like more upscale college housing now. And then this building right here is a Greek house, big frat house. How that happened, I don't know. But like growing up, they were very loud, and I didn't understand what was going on. I know now, but I was like, man, they're having parties. I want to go over there. There's all these people. Okay, cool. I have deep ties to RCA, not just because of the fact that both my parents ended up graduating from this seminary, but the denomination actually helped our family stay in the United States after my dad finished his studies. He needed a different kind of visa, immigration status, and didn't have one. He got a job at a church, but the church didn't have the means to actually sponsor him as an employee at that time. This was a small church, so the denomination sponsored him. It was a religious worker visa, and it worked out because there were very few Korean pastors who could do that kind of work that were available. So there was just an imbalance in the supply and demand, and so that's how our family got our green cards. It happened very quickly. It was like months between application and approval. Nowadays, that stuff takes like 2 years. It was kind of miraculous, and the denomination really went out of the way to make room for us. There was another man on campus. The president of the seminary actually was very, very, very welcoming to us as well. His name was Norm Cansfield. I don't know if you know him, but he recently, unfortunately, passed away, and I'm very sad because I won't be able to go to his services, but he really welcomed my family. Like, think about nowadays, we talk about welcoming immigrants, creating a hospitable environment for them. He did that for all of the different immigrant student families at the seminary at the time, including mine. Between him and the sponsorship, I feel like I'm gonna be around here for a while, paying back all the good that's been done for both me and my family, and I'm happy, because it ties me to a place and a people. After 5 years of residency, my parents naturalized, became US citizens. I was, I think, 16, so under the cutoff, so I never had to take the test. They took it for me. Basically, they just fill out a form, and I got citizenship as a minor, which is a great way to do it, and if you can do that you should definitely do it. Like, if you, just saying. I have an office called Lighthouse. We help families with that all the time. We're very good at it. They're pretty straightforward applications, so yeah. So much of what I have in my life today, I really truly owe to other people, and that really is a humbling fact, and it is still kind of driving how I want to be able to approach how I interact with the world. All right, other things happened. 2001, 9/11 happened. That was a dark time. So 2001 was the year before I became a US citizen. It was before my parents became a US citizen. It scared us because we didn't know what was gonna happen with the immigration system. We didn't know are they still gonna, it was a terrifying time to be in the United States as an immigrant. Obviously, Asians were not particularly targeted in any way at that time, but watching the country turn against anyone from the Middle East or of Muslim faith it's not hard to read the room. I mean, I think there is a certain level of solidarity. Anybody on the margins is gonna see what's happening with everyone else on the margins and understand, like, yeah, we don't like what's happening to the country. We don't like the way that the country is also treating, really, Americans, and we could be next. There was a lot of fear, and I remember that sense of, like, we should keep our heads down. We should not try to cause a ruckus because it could be us next. I think you need a lot of strength and safety to be able to take a stand on something like that. Fall of 2001, U.S. goes to Afghanistan. That's a thing. I say that's a thing because 20 years later at Lighthouse, one of the first big projects I ended up working on was how to figure out we're going to do legal services for all the Afghans that were now leaving Afghanistan because the U.S. had pulled out, came to West Michigan, and I need like $5 million to hire and double my team and do 400 asylum applications. Asylum is a very difficult process, very expensive, very involved. $5 million was my low estimate for how much this would cost. I was wrong. It actually cost closer to like $1.5 million. But at the same time, it was wild to think man, this thing that I was really upset about in 2001, 20 years later, is the thing that I'm also working to do this tiny shred of good in the world for, because it's only like 400 people. And I say only like it's not important. It is very important. But it's only 400 people when tens of thousands of people were impacted along the way, right? But it felt strange to be at Lighthouse at the time doing that work and trying to figure out a way forward with it all. Back to my time at Hope College and how I got there. My dad was a pastor. We lived in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Going from urban New Brunswick to suburban Fair Lawn was a shocker. I never knew that a school could have playgrounds. And they had huge, it was beautiful, grass everywhere. Classes were not overburdened. We had teachers who could afford to speak to you and buy supplies. It was wild. The church was Korean, and having a Korean church growing up, that was really my extended family, because it was all Korean immigrants and their kids. And we did everything together. I don't know if you know much about Korean churches, but I'll tell you, they do this thing called daybreak worship, which is not my favorite thing. Tuesday through Friday, usually sometimes it's every single day of the week that's not Sunday, the pastor will have a Bible study before dawn at the church. And the most dedicated members of the church will always go. I didn't go until my dad started offering McDonald's breakfast. Then I went all the time. The reason it was at daybreak is because that's when immigrants would have to go. That's the time they had before they had to go to work. They'd have to go. We're talking third wave generation Korean immigrants. They were entrepreneurs, but they were owning small businesses. I hate to say it, but the stereotype of convenience stores and dry cleaners and supermarkets, that's actually most of the folks in my church were doing that kind of work outside of church. Grocery store opens at 7. You're going to have a quick Bible study at 5:30, 6 o'clock for 20, 30 minutes every day. Again, McDonald's helped a lot. This is why my buddy Tim is here, and he knows that I love that, and that's why. Pancakes, man, those pancakes are so good. My dad was a good pastor. He was a great person. He was kind and comforting, but he was also very pragmatic. He understood that being a pastor for an immigrant church was not just teaching the Bible and leading people to faith. He also would do things that I think you would consider maybe social work. We had one lady who was getting a thing where you can cut hair. She failed 3 times, and he was her person that she was trying to pass on 3 times. And he, preaches on Sundays, and he'd show up on Sunday with the worst haircut. No one could say anything, right? Because Korea is also very hierarchical. You can't say anything to the person that's in charge of something, but he had some really bad haircuts for 3 years. And it was an act of service, right? Because no one else was willing to do it, but he would, and was setting a model for other people in the church. If I'm willing to do it, then you should be willing to do it, right? And he was the master of that. Always the last to eat. Korean churches, you always have Korean lunch after service. That's not just here in the States. That's Korean churches everywhere, right? And if they don't have lunch, they do. Just stick around. They'll eventually invite you. It's really good. He'd be the last to eat, make sure everyone had enough, because again, small church. He got involved with Western Seminary. He was on the board here for 7 years. He did a full term, and that's how he convinced me to go to Hope College, because he'd come up here. He was recruited, I think, for the fact that he was someone who was willing to work. I don't know, across the aisle, but the church, RCA at the time, really wanted to increase how many pastors and people it was serving across different racial backgrounds, and Korean was one of them. So I think it was like the Council of Pacific Islander, Asian American, something. It was a very long acronym. I was like 12, so bear with me. But he would fly up to Holland 5-6 times a year for board meetings. He would stay with a board member. And then he would eat at Phelps for lunch. And he convinced me to go to Hope by saying, Phelps has really good food. And I believed him, right? You believe your parents when they tell you stuff. I still love Phelps food. I had dinner with Polly at Phelps just like a few days ago, and I was like, this is really good. I gotta be honest. Part of what I didn't tell you was you get here as an 18-year-old, and they have unlimited free soft serve if you're on meal plan, right? Right? I don't know if they still have that, but okay. See, they're all nodding. Yeah, unlimited ice cream. It's not free, but in that context, it's basically free, and so it's the little things. He had convinced me to apply. I applied. I also applied for a couple different other colleges. All of them didn't really seem like the place I wanted to go to. Part of it was finances. I couldn't afford to go to Boston University because they didn't really give me a scholarship, so it was going to be $45,000 a year. Hope gave me a really appreciable scholarship to go here. John Teese was the Teese family found it endowed scholarship, which he put in place for his dad, who was a pastor. He graduated in the 60s, but I got to meet him. It's amazing, the community, right? And again, another thing I have to thank somebody else for. So I ended up coming to Holland with my mom during orientation weekend without ever having set foot in Michigan before. It was my first time here. I remember flying over in this tiny plane and looking out the window and seeing just an alarming amount of farmland. I'm wondering, is there a college here? How is that possible? We landed in Grand Rapids Airport. I was kind of shocked at how it's the smallest airport I'd ever been in my entire life until that point, because I grew up going to JFK and Seoul International and Narita in Japan, and Anchorage was 10 times the size of Grand Rapids. So I was like, what did I actually sign up for? I wasn't entirely sure. I felt very out of place. You could feel it everywhere I went. I was almost always the only non-Caucasian person in the room, in the space, around. And that was unusual. New Jersey is diverse. My classmates were from 20 different countries. They all spoke English, sure, but I don't know, we had Hindu and Jewish and atheist and Christian all next to each other, all taking calculus and suffering together, right? Coming here, it was kind of a strange thing to be in a very monocultural place once again. Because I remember what South Korea was like. In South Korea, most people at the 90s, they're all Korean. Very monocultural, not very diverse at all. New Jersey, much more diverse place. And then coming back all the way to Holland, it's okay, this is going to be an education in learning how to navigate this, and also it feels strange. The second day of orientation, the college, I believe, hosted a reception, and they invited all the international students and kind of opened it up to all the Phelps scholars. And I went to this reception. It was in the science building had just been finished, the atrium, the science center, huge, 5-story tall, glass windows, very beautiful area. And they had set up a reception. There's 100 people-ish there. Back in my day, Hope College used to send your email address and login password to you in a little note card, along with your acceptance letter. I don't know if they still do that. Do they still do that? Really? All right, well, this still is relevant then. Wow. So I got my acceptance letter, and I got that little card, and it had not my name on it. It had a different name than mine. It was, instead of david.lee at hope.edu, it said andrew.lee at hope.edu. Just strange, because my name is David. How did Hope College know that I have a brother named Andrew Lee who didn't apply, who was still in high school? So I didn't log in because I felt weird. I didn't really feel like getting in touch with the college because I was who uses email? It's 2004. It's not a big deal. It wasn't. It really was not a huge deal, right? So I get to campus, I get to this reception, and I see one pretty Korean-looking guy, and he sees me at the same time, and we walk towards each other, and we shake each other's hand. I'm like, "Are you Andrew Lee?" And he says to me, "Are you David Lee?" Because admissions had mixed up our cards, right? So we swapped cards. Like I had mine on him, like I had it with me, and he had his. So we literally gave each other our cards. Andrew was an international student, actually from Korea. He was not American like me. He was Korean. He spoke English very well, but he spoke Korean way better. And when he learned that I spoke Korean well enough to converse, he wanted to talk in Korean all the time, and he spoke really, really fast. And I could never keep up. So I would always have to try and get him to slow down. There were not many freshman Korean students on campus. I'd say there was 5 at that time. I was one, Andrew was one, Kyuhan lived in my dorm. There's a couple others. No one was from New Jersey. A lot of them either grew up as kids of missionaries from Africa, because they were adoptees, or they were adoptees from West Michigan. So even though they looked like me, I knew that I had very little in common with them. And it felt weird to kind of bring that up with them. But Andrew stuck out, because he was very exuberant. He was impossible not to notice. And so anytime I would meet students after they would ask me where I was from, once I told them Korea, because Andrew talked about Korea all the time. He loves this country. They would ask if I knew Andrew Lee. And I would have to say, yes, I do. I do know the person that you're talking about, who happens to be from the same country that I'm from, even though we met here, and now we're friends. The next year after that, Hope College gained 3 more Andrew Lees. My brother came to Hope, so he was Andrew.Lee.2 at hope.edu. There was Professor Andrew Lee from Vietnam, of piano, professor, excellent professor. He could trace back his piano heritage all the way back to Liszt, because his teacher learned from this teacher, who learned from this teacher, from to Liszt. He's one of the greatest pianists. He had a chart on his door. And I was like, dude, that's sick. Also, I'm not learning piano, because that's really intense. And then there was a Caucasian Andrew Lee. He's about this tall. So for 4 years, there were 4 Andrew Lees on campus, and anytime someone would have to ask me, do you know Andrew Lee? Yes, I do. I know all of them. Which one? The one that's my brother? The professor? No, he's not my dad. That actually got asked me a lot. I was like, nope, he's from Vietnam. I'm from Korea. It was great. It was great. So Hope College had the full set of Andrew Lees, which I was, good job. Got all the Pokemon. That was Tim's joke. That wasn't anything of the college is doing, but it was really funny, and I liked to experiment socially with different kinds of questions, because I met a lot of new people at Hope College, as you do, right? You met other students, professors, you meet a lot of staff, actually. And I wanted to see, what is this Holland place all about? It's kind of a weird little place we have here. We have our own symphony orchestra and its own museum, and great beaches. It's got everything that Hope has to offer, which is amazing, right? So many different buildings and resources, but it's got its own history and culture. And I didn't know anything about that until I came to Holland. And the more I learned about it, I was like, this is really cool. I grew up in the suburbs of New Jersey. Fair Lawn kind of has a history, but no one really identifies as being from Fair Lawn. They're from New Jersey, because it's suburbs. It's suburbs and suburbs and suburbs. If you're from a city, then you might say, yeah, I'm from Hackensack, but no one wants to say they're from Hackensack. But Holland has its own identity, and so did Zeeland, right? I met people from Zeeland. They were like, oh, I'm not from Holland. I'm from Zeeland, right? I'm from Grand Haven. It was very much even though we're all in this same county, which is a big county, everyone is very much I'm from this place, which is remarkable. And again, as someone from New Jersey, it was a new interaction that I had with people. Yeah, I gotta keep moving. I think I have 10 minutes left, is that correct? Yes. Great. So this is I think the big part of my talk here has been a lot of those experiences that I had as a student. I think the difficult part that I want to do real quick is to just tell you, this is Thou shalt not park here. This is the library at New Brunswick Seminaries. In the back, there's a no parking area, and very cheekily they had a sign that says, please do not park here, but this is what they have. I put this up here because some very difficult things were happening on Hope's campus between 2000, all the time. It's always been difficult on Hope's campus for a variety of reasons. But at 2004, Norm Cansfield had officiated at his daughter's wedding to another woman. RCA put him on trial. If you're familiar with Room for All, there was a movement of people from all different backgrounds that were trying to increase acceptance of gays in our school and in our church, and it was a very ongoing conversation that it didn't start then, but that was a big point of it. Norm ended up becoming a good friend to my family, but he was also put on trial and then removed from all the different places. It was very painful for a lot of people. It was painful for me and my family because it was a conflict. Like, here's this person who we know to be kind and upstanding and someone who is deeply in faith and Christian. At the same time, he has done this thing that the church is saying is not okay. It was difficult. I went from going to Hope College at the time, which was very much also part of that conversation because this was the year that Bush beat Kerry. His platform was basically, we're going to keep defending our country and we're going to not let gays marry. Let me tell you, on campus, all I saw were people who loved those two ideas so much. It was frightening. As someone from New Jersey, there wasn't one single opinion that you could hold. It was all like everyone, all for themselves. And coming to Holland and feeling like the number of Bush supporters and Bush signs I saw was frightening. Even though campus itself was beautiful. That's Western Sem. There's a beautiful sculpture called Icarus, still there. And then that's the old Klutz where I hung out a lot. Tim, these are your feet. This is like my friend was sitting there. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a picture. Yeah. Oh, you can't see them. This is his foot. I cut off part. I used to work at the coffee bar, so I drank a lot of coffee, and there was a student-run coffee bar. Wilma Hart retired a few years ago, but she was like my on-campus mom. Oh gosh, I love that. Yeah, so she hired me. I begged for a job at the coffee shop. It's what I always wanted, and then she basically helped me navigate West Michigan in a way that no one else was able to. Yeah, Bush was really on campus and thinking about how strange it was to be both Christian college, but in favor of someone who was so, it seemed and felt divisive to me. And if this feels like 2024 to you as well, that's true. I got a little bit involved with on-campus activities. Here's me. HAPA was ASU's predecessor, but I really got involved with everything else on campus. Hope College has so much going on. This is Nykirk. I served as one of the photographers for the anchor. And so that gave me license to do whatever I wanted, anywhere I wanted, anytime. Because I had the press pass, so I could be like, oh yeah, I'm with the anchor. And like, you have to imagine where I'm standing right now. It's socially not acceptable just to be like standing here and taking a picture of me, but like, I don't know, I love photography. And this was a cool year. I don't know, like all these traditions and things that to build on. So, talked about that controversy. There was a professor named Miguel de la Torre. He famously got in an op-ed tussle with James Dobson, and it led to him eventually leaving his post here at the college because he was essentially told, like, what you're doing is making it difficult for us to continue providing the education that Hope College wants to. You can look this up. It's all there. I took his class, Reading the Bible from the Margins. It was eye-opening. The fact that he ended up leaving triggered a protest on campus, which I was part of. Not great. Basically, the professor was saying, like, we should let people, regardless of their background or sexuality, into the church and feel like they are fully welcomed. And the college was like, don't talk about that. It makes people mad. Also, I mean, if you read this article, it is very satirical. Like, it's satire, right? I love satire. The point of satire is to make people think and question and also kind of mad. And it definitely did. Professor Del Torre definitely accomplished his goal. The year after this, that summer in 2005, after my freshman year, is when Norm did his last day at seminary as the president. He basically stepped down on the day that my mom graduated from seminary. So I was there in New Brunswick. His last day was like officiating commencement, and then he like took off his thing, I forget what it's called, shawl, and then he walked out of the room and took a picture with my parents and my grandparents and my mom. This is actually the worst picture I could find. We have better ones, but again, this is my mom. You can't see her face. My grandparents are here, and then there's Norm. I took this picture, and then my parents were around. It was strange. Like, the first year, I felt like, yes, I felt strange being a Korean American on campus, but it also was like, this is a Christian school. Why are they, to me, not acting Christian? It was a very big conflict. So I want to tell you also about the other side of this, which is very important to me. In 2006, after all this had happened, I came back to campus in the fall, kind of wondering, like, do I really want to stay here? They forced basically a professor of religion to leave, he was a refugee and an immigrant from Cuba, spoke with an accent. Like, if that person of that position in that power can't say what they really feel and believe and feel like they have to leave, what chance do I have to say my piece, right? 2006 was also the year that my dad was planning on going to China as a missionary. He did 10 years at the small church that we grew up in, and he planned this whole thing. He did fundraising, he put a board together, he found a church, he translated hymnals, and basically was preparing to leave the United States and go to China as a missionary, completing that giant full circle again of having somebody from MBTS go and be a missionary in Asia, right? Unfortunately, he never made it. He actually passed away on his way there. He died in a car accident in January, along with my grandmother and my great aunt. So, yeah, that was pretty rough. I was on campus when that happened in January. And I had to grab my brother and fly to Korea for the funeral. It was pretty rough. This was not an easy time in my life, but I was a sophomore at Hope College, and holy moly have I seen and still live with some of the best that Hope College has ever offered a person, because everyone reached out. My professors, Wilma Hart, who was my boss technically, the president of the college, Dean Frost. I mean, I know these are people like that you may not recognize if you're younger, but like these are people that were a big deal. And the fact that the entire college, everyone I knew, all my friends and colleagues and classmates really reached out. A bunch of people here reached out. Whether or not Hope College gets diversity right or wrong, and I think it's trying to, I also know that at its heart and its core, it has an amazing capacity for building community and taking care of people. Yes, I didn't really feel like Hope was the place for a Korean American, progressive, New Jersey person, but it absolutely was the right place for that kind of person who was also grieving the loss of a parent. You don't get that everywhere. I talked about other colleges and universities that I applied to. I think if I had gone to Boston University, that I would not have been in contact with all the people and had them personally invite me out to take me and make sure that my brother and I were doing okay. I think at the end of the day, what I want is for that kind of kindness to be extended to all people that consider Hope a part of their community. I've seen it done. I wouldn't say that I was an insider or an outsider. I was just kind of new to the area, but many times since then, I think Hope has really been struggling to extend that same level of care to everyone under and within its borders. If I want to look 10 years in the future, what I see is hoping for a president of the college that, I'm just going to say it, doesn't look like every other president of the college so far. Maybe someone that is a person of color. Maybe someone that is a woman. Maybe someone that's not even from here, but someone who has the kind of care that this community has for its students. At the end of the day, Hope is about its students first and foremost. I can definitely disagree with what Hope chooses to do with its policies from time to time, while still agreeing in principle that what's being done is for the benefit of the people that are trying to find a place in the middle to learn from. Yeah. Is that time? Okay, then I'm gonna go for one more minute. At the end of the day, one of the biggest things that still sticks with me about Hope's role and how I have seen it is there was another protest on campus. In 2006, there was another professor of art who was not given tenure even though he had really great marks. He was beloved by students, he was an excellent educator, and he was also gay. So he chose to leave because he didn't get tenure. And his words, not mine, he believes that his gender identity really played a part in the reason that he didn't get tenure. I was in a protest, again, with pretty much the same group of students. That time, though, President Bultmann actually had to come out and grab the petition from us. I remember him coming out of the DeWitt, well, old DeWitt, right? It's May, it's like the week before Tulip time, because everything controversial at Hope happens at the end of the year. I don't know how that happens, but it does. It's very convenient. But I remember him coming out and turning the corner and having to grab the petitions of like 500 people that had all said, like, we don't believe in this. He grabbed it, didn't say a word, and he walked back into student development. And I remember thinking, I mean, that's the same guy who checked in on me, my brother, and my mom to make sure that I was okay after my dad passed away. And I know that I disagree with him about some of these social issues, but it still does feel like we're gonna be okay. Since then, Hope has had various levels of movement, both on sexuality, but also other social issues, right? I think that progress is continuing. It's just really, really slow. Be patient. Don't stop working for the change, but be patient, because it's going to take generations to undo generations. Fun fact, and this is the last thing I'll say, first president of Hope College, Philip Phelps, Dutch immigrant. Yes. I'm serious. Like he was not from the United States originally, and he was the first president of the college. So, yes, Hope has had an immigrant president of its college, and I think I can imagine any of you here doing the same in the future. Thank you.
Before we move on to the discussion portion of the event, if anyone would like to step away, we would like to invite you to do that now so we can have a meaningful conversation without major distractions.
Thank you. Oh, I'm still on. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Shaw, and I am a senior here at Hope studying biochemistry, molecular biology, and Spanish. I have been honored to serve as ASU's secretary over the past 2 years. I want to thank you all for coming out to listen to David Lee speak this afternoon. What an amazing opportunity to hear from such an incredible and knowledgeable person. So we will now move forward to the Q&A portion. If you have any questions, please scan the QR code that is located on the screen and to submit your questions. There it is. We also have note cards if you prefer to write them down, and we will submit them for you. If you would like one, please raise your hands, and our volunteer will come to you with a pen and note card. 2 volunteers, I think. We have Nicole over here, and I think Polly, maybe not. If you need help, just raise your hand. So to start, our first question is, how has your experience at Hope prepared you to work in the professional world and your position at Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates?
Yeah, it helped me, it tempered my expectations for change while also encouraging me to find that calling, which is a weird way of saying, like, it taught me patience, but also to see injustice and to try and fight for it. You need both, unfortunately. That's probably the biggest thing. I mean, obviously academics was solid and the connections I've made with people, very helpful. But yeah, seeing that change takes a while and approaching things from the middle.
Do you feel like your skills with advocacy grew while you were here, or you learned how to fight for yourself more?
No.
No?
No, that all happened after college. I think what I learned here was really like the identity of who I was. Advocacy is still something I think I'll be learning for the rest of my days, because it is such a deep thing to try and pour into. I was never the leader of these protests. I was part of them, but it was never something that I felt safe or secure in initiating. I feel more of that now, but I think a lot of that just comes from working with Lighthouse, where we have people that are really convicted in their beliefs and the ability for things to change. It's like finding the one small step that we can take quicker, as opposed to finding a way to fix the whole, one of the many large problems that we have.
Yeah. What do you think is the value of having diversity here on campus, whether it be diversity of thought, belief, background, or identity?
This is, thank you. Diversity to me is kind of, it's tied with unity. And when any single group or person is excluded from a group that considers itself whole, all the members of that group are really deprived of that sense of unity and community. If you have a single person, this comes from my time at Community Action Now, so I thought about like, hey, I have a place to sleep at night, but I also know that tonight there's maybe 100, 200, 300 people that are sleeping in places that are not fit for humans. And you just extend that to your identity and who you are as a person, and you realize that because that one person doesn't have that need filled, really it's all of us together that don't have that need filled. Without diversity, you're not aware of those stories or those needs. Without diversity, you can't even celebrate when those things are solved or addressed. You need to have different voices of all kinds. I think it's also a struggle for diversity on Hope's campus, because it's hard. It's really hard to define exactly what you're trying to achieve. Metrics around that are very difficult as well. At the end of the day, 2/7 of the entire global world are in China and India, probably more like 3/8 at this point. If you look at like random sampling of people in the entire world, Caucasians are 11%, Asians are 33%. Like, I'm not saying campus has to reflect that number for number, but it does make a difference when you claim to be preparing students for a global world. And I don't see Hope sitting on that either. I think it's been doing great things to try and make change in the positive directions, but yeah.
Do you have any advice for Hope on how you think they could do better with that specifically?
Well, I did mention having a president of the college or a college leadership that represents more of the kinds of students you're trying to attract. I think that's been happening a lot more the last 10, 15 years than it ever has before that. I think of like the office of the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. I'm sorry, I keep getting the name wrong. has been around for 40 years. I'd say the first 20 years I don't know much about. I know a lot about the last 20 years, because that's when I was around, and it looks and feels healthier, still more challenged, right? Every time you make progress, there seems to be less urgency to make more progress. I think the college might be getting closer to the point where you still have to stop having to make the economic argument for diversity and can start making the values argument for it. I think a lot of, especially here in West Michigan, very entrepreneurial, very business-centered, like you need to have dollars for every kind of diversity activity that you're doing. But I think Hope College can get to that place where, because no one wants to be seen as cheap, right? Like, no one really wants to be defined as someone who was only money hungry, and I think Hope College could lead in that area better. I see like this generational investment into these programs that needs to continue, for sure. As for specific practical advice, I have none. None whatsoever.
Do you have any advice for current students?
Yeah. Are you both seniors? Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me as a student was realizing that graduation day was really the first day of my education. Like all of this time in college and high school and before that, that's your preparation time. Your education begins when you have to take that and do stuff with it. So go do stuff. Between your ages of like 20 to 30 is like prime time to fail at everything catastrophically. Because you don't have that much money to lose, right? If you decide to fail catastrophically at 40 years old, it's worse. So much worse. So like, take risks now, it'll be very difficult to take them when you're 38 years old, like me, or older. Or, so like, just fail now, fail hard, fail fast, learn as much as you can, and then come back to society. Are you also a senior?
I am. Yeah.
Fail? Yeah, go fail.
Already on it.
Great, love it.
Since we're on the theme of advice, do you have any advice or anything that you would tell your freshman or senior self? We've got your go fail. Would you keep that for yourself?
Senior self, no, actually, no. I really like the path that I've been on. It's not been easy, but it has been the path that I have had. I mean, after Hope College, I went to graduate school. I studied music. Did that for 5 years. I was a freelancer. I played with symphonies. I did a lot of chamber music, and I don't regret any of that. I don't do that full time anymore, so I wouldn't tell him anything. Freshman David, maybe like do a sport and stick with it. Yeah, that's probably like the one thing I would say.
Cool. Yeah, we have I don't know if you guys had this in the early 2000s, but we have some trouble between our MSO community and our sport community. We have a lot of trouble integrating those two communities, so it'd be cool if we could have more intersection in that area. What is, moving subjects a little bit, what is the most fascinating thing that someone told you when they asked you, where are you from?
When they told me?
What is the most fascinating thing? Yeah, well, how about we phrase it this way? How have you, like, what is the most fascinating way you've responded to that? Or have you ever found somebody asking it to you in a different way than maybe the generic, what kind of ethnicity are you?
So when I was in South Korea, I was in South Korea as a student. I did study abroad with Hope College. I went to the same university that I was talking about in Korea, Yonsei, where my parents went, where Underwood started. While I was there, I ended up asking a student where they were from, knowing that they're going to say Korea, right? But I was like, I wonder if this would work here. The student said, "I'm from North Korea." And I was like, oh. So she had never been asked that before. And I became friends with her. She invited me to the North Korean club at the university. There was like 30 of them, and they would meet once a week, go out and talk about how weird it is being North Korean living in South Korea. And I was part of their club. And I don't think I'll ever hear someone answer that question that way again for most of the rest of my life. So that was probably the most interesting.
Yeah, that would be, I would think. Yeah. I have a question on that line. I always have trouble with this question because I usually am asking somebody, oh, what suburb of Grand Rapids are you from? But because I am white, people think I'm trying to ask them what ethnicity they are. And I really genuinely just want to know what suburb of Grand Rapids you're from. Do you have any advice on how you would phrase that differently?
So, like the first question or the second question?
Not the ethnicity one, the where have you grown up living question.
I mean, you could ask, like, where were you living before you came to Hope College? You could also ask, like, which suburb of GR are you from?
Fair points.
But I literally asked Javon that, like, and again, sorry, I still can't remember. It's like, was it Southeast? Yeah, I don't know Grand Rapids very well. Okay. I think another way you can ask that is, and this is a clever way to do it, when you say, hey, I'd love to know more about you. I'm from, and put a context to it. I'm from Zealand. Where are you from? Instead of saying, I'm from the Netherlands, then they might answer, I'm from Korea. I mean, that's fair, right? Or you could say, I'm from Chicagoland area.
Cool. Solid advice. Yeah. Well, you mentioned really enjoying Phelps.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Phelps meal? Is there one that you remember fondly besides ice cream?
Chicken sandwiches, the fried chicken sandwiches with like just the bread and the chicken patty and then bread. We only got American food at school growing up, right? And let me tell you, this was bad. This was bad food, but I still loved it. Like the pizza was a square, and it came in a plastic bag, and you had to unwrap it. And I loved it because it was the only pizza I could ever eat. And chicken sandwiches, oh my gosh, those are the best. I mean, I know that they're terrible for you, and Phelps makes them as they should be, which is not like, it's not a 5-star dining experience, but it is a very good dining experience.
That's fair. I definitely visited colleges with far worse food. We have time for one more question, so we can end it on a nice note. What was your favorite memory from Hope?
Yeah, that's a really hard one. I'll be honest and say, like, there's not a favorite one because I don't think of Hope College as a place where I had a ton of joy. I had a lot of challenges here, and I've appreciated those challenges. I took a class, it was like an upperclassman English class, Dr. Panapacker. He's not here anymore, I think, but he treated a bunch of sophomores like they were seniors, which was cool, and then we each had to do a whole term paper. I wrote mine on Nike, and how Nike as a corporation had used soccer or football to take over the whole world. And I like went into the discourse of this, and it took me like the whole semester to write this paper. It was like term paper, right? Do a midterm. I also remember writing most of that paper the night before it was due, and I got like a perfect score on it.
Good job.
And my classmates hated me because we were all writing that. Like they knew that I wrote the whole thing the night before, and they had worked on theirs diligently for like weeks, and they got a worse grade than I did, and I felt really bad. But it's a really good memory.
Well, good job. Ended on a flex. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, once again, I, as well as ASU as a whole, would like to thank David Lee for coming out and speaking with us today. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Please let this talk sit with you all and encourage you to be an advocate for the Asian, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities in your daily lives. Now, to end tonight off, ASU would like to share some of our upcoming events. Next week, we have 2 events, so you can ASU it up all week if you choose. Please join us for our Pot a Plant event with Prism and Garden Club on Monday the 15th at 8 p.m. at Keppel House. We'll be painting pots, we'll be planting plants. We'll be having lots of fun. Additionally, please come to our stage reading of the play Young Americans in conjunction with the Theater Department's Many Voices Project, Hope Adoptees Organization, CDI, and Student Life as part of their Something Every Tuesday series. This will be next Tuesday, the 16th at 7 p.m. in the BSC SCOP Auditorium. Finally, please check out the display we have up at the library for the AANHPI Asian, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and check our newsletter made by yours truly for more of the many events we have planned for you all this month. We look forward to seeing you again soon. So thank you to all of those involved in this event, the Asian Student Union, the Culture and Inclusive Excellence Division, the Grow Advisory Council, Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates, and the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. We invite you to check out the Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates information table in the back for you to learn more about the organization and the amazing work they do in our community. The Center for Diversity and Inclusion will continue to use the Diversity Lecture Series to celebrate its 40th anniversary during the upcoming 2024 fall semester, so please stay tuned. CDI also has free t-shirts on the table to your right to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. Thank you for spending your time here with us tonight, and have a great evening.